Nature doesn't need perfection, it needs a voice.
Hello, welcome to the Nature's Voice Show. I'm your host, Caleb Fix, and today we're going to be delving into a conservation storytelling topic about one of the most important ecosystems in the entire world, and that is coral reefs. So today, we have Derick Walker, a documentarian and the founder of Walker Wildlife Films. In his film, With and Without Coral, A Coral Story, he takes an in-depth look at what our worlds would look like while reefs thrive, and then also what they would look like when they disappear. So, Derick, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining us on the show. Now, before we kind of get specifically into the nitty-gritty of the work, the documentary, and things like that, can you just start by sharing a little bit about your background, and then kind of a synopsis of the film?
Absolutely. First off, thanks for having me, and secondly, thanks for caring about coral. I think it's a brilliant ecosystem, and it's something that's super important that people like me want to shed light on. So thanks for having me on here again. So my journey began with a fish tank, of all things. I had a fish tank, and I went to the fish store to buy some fish for the tank, obviously, and somebody gave me what I thought was a rock. So I took that rock, went home, I put it in my tank, and then I started seeing like the white tips going, and I started seeing it growing, and I'm like, this is not a rock. What is this thing? So I did what anybody else would do. I went on Amazon and bought a textbook that was super boring, but I read it from front to back, and that's when I realized what coral was. I learned it was an animal. I learned it had a mouth. I learned it had arms. I learned that it uses photosynthesis. Some do, some don't. It had all these characteristics of a normal animal, but on top of that, it grew a structure within the ocean that was basically the foundation for the entire ocean, and it blew me away. So I was hooked right there. And then this whole time I had a YouTube channel for my fish tanks. I wanted to teach other people how to make a fish tank, how to grow coral, and then that led me into the ocean. So I started scuba diving. Then I started with the GoPro. I noticed some quirks with it. I wanted this to look a little bit better. What can I do? So I bought a better camera. Then I bought a nicer housing. And then I was like, okay, this is cool, but now I need to tell stories. So then I started structuring things. I'm like, I'm gonna sit down, write a story about something. My first project was a little piece on the Blue Heron Bridge. Came out terrible, but it's part of the filmmaking process, right? You got to go through these things to understand how to filmmake, tell a proper story, especially if you care about the topic. And then as I progressed there, I got the bigger idea of just doing a massive story. I started scuba diving off the coast of Florida here in my hometown, and I thought I was looking at healthy coral. I didn't know at the time that what a diseased or unhealthy coral looked like versus what a healthy one looked like. So as I'm diving, everyone's happy. It's beautiful down there. It's great. And then I go to this film festival just to watch some documentary filmmakers who do wildlife stuff, and they're telling about the story of stony coral tissue loss disease, SCTLD. It's a pretty bad disease. And I got internally upset because I was like, how am I diving on these reefs? Nobody's telling me that they're dead. So I thought in my head, I'm like, if I don't know this, a lot of people probably don't. So then from there, kind of started diving down the lane of, I'm going to write a story about this. And really it just began by reaching out to a scientist, Dr. Brian Walker, via a Zoom call. I had a big sales background, so I just put my sales hat on. I'm going to shoot him an email, see if he wants to talk about this disease. And he did. And I was super nervous, and that led me down a rabbit hole. I was like, you need to talk to this person, this organization. And then I reached out to them. And then next thing I know, I have 20 people that I spoke to. And then I'm like, well, I'm just going to start traveling and interviewing these folks. So that's what we did. We headed around the Caribbean, and we hit some pretty beautiful places on land. And then when you go in the water, now that you know what you're looking at, it was a little bit depressing at the same time. But I knew my mission was to educate everybody on what coral is, why it's important, and why we need to protect it.
Yeah, no, that's good. And kind of going off of that, you mentioned that you started by reaching out to Dr. Brian Walker, and then you kind of reached out to more people and started traveling. When you began, did you ever expect to kind of go into this journey, or were you just like, this is something I'm interested about, this is something I'm passionate about, and then after reaching out to that first contact, you're like, let's just go all in, let's just go out there?
Yeah, I was in a weird point in my life during that time because I actually was working in corporate sales for a long time while I was doing all my fish tank stuff. and I wasn't fulfilled personally. So I literally made the leap. I quit my job, which was, that was tough. It was a very hard and scary thing to do, but I knew I was going to go all in with this documentary at that point. So after that conversation with Brian Walker kind of triggered everything. It's like, wait a minute, these people want to talk, right? Nobody's filming them, and they need to get out there. So yeah, I made the leap. I think the hardest thing about filmmaking, if not anything in life, is starting.
Yeah.
But once you start and you're passionate about it, it doesn't feel like a job, but two, you're just going down this rabbit hole, and like everything else is just blinders. Like I didn't know where the money was going to come from. That was a whole nother thing I had to figure out. But not once did I stress about it. I'm just like, I'm going to tell this story. I'm going to find the money. I'm going to tell this story. But yeah, so yeah, I quit my job and I went all in like immediately.
That's awesome. And I definitely, as we go throughout this conversation, I want to talk more about the specifics of the documentary eventually. But for right now, I want to talk a little bit about storytelling, and specifically, you use videography, you use visual media. So why do you think that is so powerful or effective when it comes to storytelling in terms of maybe photography? And it's not like you have to be like, oh, photography stinks, videography is great, but meaning like specifically, why do you find videography to be so compelling in storytelling, if you do?
I do, yeah. I think for me, it's a little different because I use it as a crutch because I'm dealing with a lot of scientists, right? I don't have a marine biology background, right? And I can't claim to. I don't know enough about it. So for me, this is like me doing my part and giving back. I know how to pick up a camera, frame something, shoot it, and I'm constantly trying to learn how to do that better, always, right? Even to this day when I do projects. I look at something and I'm like, I could have done this, this, and this to make it look a lot better. But it's important, especially nowadays, because the attention span of people, you have social media, TikTok, everything's so fast paced, but when you're going through like reels and you're swiping, like you stop to look at, it's videos, right? You rarely see pictures on there. People like to see motion. They get captured in there, but whether it's a still image or a video, that's just a portion of it. The story itself is by far the most important thing. So there's no getting around storytelling without these mediums, right? So the first step in anything is to start writing things down and building that story arc, and then having those images match that story arc. And for me, it goes even further. We get into detail about the images, right? I love coloring video. I think coloring is so huge. It brings out a lot of moods and tones and things, right? So if you have like a sad moment with some sad music, and then on top of that, you don't have this colorful image. You take the saturation down, and you have this like blue, like mediocre feeling. It adds, right? It elevates that story. And I think that's what video does a really good job of doing. There's so many different techniques and styles, framing. It just all brings out emotions. And I think adding that emotional element to the story helps a ton through video.
Yeah, and kind of going off of that, what probably was throughout the process like the most emotional part for you?
Yeah, I think honestly it didn't feel finished until we did like our first big screening. That and the film festivals. Once we won an award, I was like, whoa, okay, I'm doing something right. I was like, but I didn't have that like confirmation until that stuff happened. So those were emotional moments for me, and more importantly, doing that screening I said, and seeing how many people bought tickets to come listen to me spiel about coral, and then talk to these scientists, and then watch the film, and then at the end of the film, having so many questions and solutions, that completed my entire mission.
Yeah.
Right? I knew I educated people right there. I knew that they knew what coral was now, and I knew that they knew how to protect it a little bit.
No, that's cool. And not to go on a soapbox, but it's kind of like that idea of delayed gratification. Like I feel like as a creator myself, and you might experience this as well, you feel like you're making something, and throughout the process, it's like, what is my goal? And like, when will I have succeeded? And sometimes you don't experience that moment right away. And it's like very heartbreaking, but I think the very admirable thing about what you're doing, specifically in conservation storytelling, is the fact that you're putting the word out there in itself is working towards the mission. And like, even if you don't see those results right away, it's out there. People are seeing that. And that might just affect one person who now loves coral reefs. And yeah, not to gas you up, but like, that's just like a really cool thing.
Yeah, I think it shows the importance of storytelling from video right there, right? It's like, it's not an image, it's 4 years of work, it's put into a story, and it's causing people to take action.
Yeah, no, that's good. And yeah, I mean, I feel like from the outside looking in, knowing Derick for a while, I feel like he accomplished the goal that he set out to make, and it's kind of cool just being on the outside looking in, like seeing it all come together.
Appreciate it.
But now the fun stuff, I want to talk specifically about your creative process, the visuals, the brainstorming, the stuff like that. So can you kind of talk about when you went down specifically for these underwater shots, if you had something in mind?
Yeah, so for the underwater stuff, that's actually a good question. So I've always let the story move me. I always let like what was happening that day guide me through everything. I feel like with documentary filmmaking, it's a little bit different than your traditional filmmaking. You will write a script, and I've been through this, I'm still going through it, even with the documentary working on now. You write something, and then as you're filming, you're realizing this is gonna go crazy different. And then to not flow with that is gonna be your biggest mistake. Just roll with it. We can figure everything out later on. So I let a lot of what I did be dictated by what was happening that day. That was kind of my creative process for everything. And filming underwater, yeah, it's not easy, and that's why you can't really write things under there. But I did go in with like a certain shot list, right? I knew I needed to get, I would always do like pre-interviews with whoever I was going with, and we would talk about what we're gonna do on our dives, right? So if that day was a treatment day, I knew I needed a sequence of treatment. So that could include being on the boat, dropping into the water, going down, watching them treat the coral, shots of diseased coral, shots of healthy coral, them applying the treatment, both wide, narrow, and I always look at things from a sequence perspective. So as I'm in the water, I just kind of have that hat on, right? I let whatever's happening happen. I don't try to stage things. I want the most natural things that are happening. And then from there, yeah, you just kind of work on framing, staying alive.
That's a good one.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
But more importantly,
Dive safely.
Dive safe, get certified, get a good trainer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, not getting in the way was a difficult thing. And then to be honest, the air consumption, you know, I'm diving down there with a 30-pound camera or something like that, and I can't move around that much because I'm going to burn through my air, and these scientists dive every day.
No, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. So I'd like to move a little bit more into the conservation aspect. So not to get bleak, but here in Florida, where I'm from, the corals are rapidly degrading, and that's kind of part of what Derick covered as well throughout the Caribbean. I read an article, and I think it was NOAA who said that since the 1970s, we've lost about 90% of our coral cover, which is huge. And then I saw another article by, I think NOAA as well, that 70% of the sites that they did in the specific study are actively degrading. So a lot of what we can do to help is bring awareness and kind of talk about what we can do. So kind of pivoting off of that, is there anything you learned throughout your documentary, simple things that people can do to help get involved and help this crisis of rapid coral loss in Florida as well across the Caribbean?
Yeah, it's a funny question because it's one I asked probably every scientist.
Yeah.
And the answer was always the same, and it was a disappointing answer, to be honest. It's everything you think of, right? The plastic stuff, the electric cars, greenhouse gases, just everything. So for me, I think what I learned is that my generation's probably not going to solve the issue, right? So what responsibility do I have? And to me, that's to pass the baton, as Jessica Harvey said in the film, to the next generation. But she made a good point too. She said you can't just put all this pressure on them like, hey, here, it's your problem now, right? We have to set them up. We have to be able to say, hey, here's what we learned, here's what we did. Let's see what you guys can do with that. And I think education is by far the most important thing with all of this. The train for this thing, right? We got the momentum going. It can't just stop with us, right? That's being stubborn and egotistical. We have to say, hey, here you go. We learned this much. Please do your part. So if we can get kids excited about that stuff early on, and that's one of our goals at Walker Wildlife Films, is to have these clinics so we get the kids excited about filmmaking, right? Wildlife filmmaking. And then what is that going to do? They're going to want to make documentaries about coral. They're going to want to make documentaries about animals. And then that's going to be living on with media forever. It'll be on YouTube forever. It'll be on Vimeo, wherever they go with it, in film festivals, maybe in Hollywood one day. But if we can get the kids excited about conservation early on, they're going to understand that it's just part of life, right?
Yeah.
It's not going to be like something they have to like work hard to do. So yeah, that was probably the biggest takeaway that I had through the whole process.
Oh, that's awesome. And directly piggybacking off of that, do you have anything that you'd like to say or kind of encourage or motivate for like aspiring storytellers, like kind of like what to do, or like do you have any advice?
Yeah, I do. And I tell this to a lot of people because I have as I did this project, right, I have a lot of friends that are filmmakers, right?
Yeah.
And they all get into the same rut. They have great ideas, great stories, never gets off the ground. And it's all for the same reason. It's because they don't like go for it, right?
Yeah.
At some point, you got to make that leap. You got to get started somehow. And it's not about the gear. It's not about having the nicest cameras. You're going to work up to that. Become the best story writer you can do. When you put something up on social media, have a beginning, middle, and end, because those are the posts that do the best.
Yeah.
When you suck in somebody emotionally and then take them on this roller coaster of a journey through your visual storytelling, that is by far the most important. It's a foundational piece to filmmaking, just like coral is a foundational piece to the ocean, right? Without that, you got nothing. You have just a modge podge of images. Have that story lined up and then go for it. Don't worry about the gear, right? You'll get better over time. And I've seen many films and film festivals with terrible images, but amazing stories, and they win all the awards.
Yeah.
Right? It's not about the imagery all the time. You're going to work up to your Hollywood status at some point, but for now, just grab your gear, get outside, and just start doing something, man.
That's really good. So, I mean, that's a great note to kind of finish on, but like, as we kind of wrap up, I'd kind of like to give you an opportunity, like, what's the future for With and Without? And where can people watch it, if they can watch it, or is it going to be streaming or stuff like that?
Yeah, so it was another thing with the, going through the journey of the filmmaking process. I didn't know where the distribution I had no idea about, but it led me to this beautiful path of creating the nonprofit Walker Wildlife Films, right?
Yeah.
I knew I wanted to keep creating. I wanted to give businesses and people a way to give back through visual storytelling. And with that, we decided to take With and Without, and we're going to be launching that onto YouTube and Vimeo. Our goal and mission is to get these out for free for everybody to watch, right? We don't want to limit it. We don't want people to pay for it.
Yeah.
That's not the goal. We want to get these videos out there and these documentaries out there so they can watch and do something about it. So moving forward, we plan on launching our first documentary, With and Without a Coral Story, and then the Peanut Island one, Peanut in Palm Beach, which you're a part of. Thank you.
Yeah.
We'll hopefully be launching that end of Q1 this year. So I'm hoping by the end of this month, we'll be able to have something out. Probably With and Without a Coral Story will go first. And then following that will be the newer documentary, but for free on our YouTube channel, yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think you just said this, what are your socials so people can follow you?
Yeah, on Instagram we are at Walk Wild Films.
Okay.
And then YouTube is Walker Wildlife Films. And our Vimeo channel we didn't launch yet, but we'll have that information for you guys for sure. But you can probably put links in whatever you're doing.
Yeah, for sure. I'll put it right here potentially if I can figure out how to edit like that. But yeah, thank you so much, Derick, for coming on the show. Everyone, I hope this motivated you to, one, check out Walk Wild Films, follow them on social media, keep looking out for this documentary, because if you haven't seen it, it's a really cool documentary and it's really impactful and it brings awareness to this issue. So follow Derick and Walker Wildlife for that. And I also hope just in general it brought awareness about the plight of our coral reefs and that we have to do something. I mean, coral reefs are so important. They protect our coastlines, they support entire ecosystems, they create biodiversity, and then in general, I don't know if this is too sappy, but they're beautiful and they're part of the environment, and just because of that, they deserve our protection. So thank you for tuning in. Again, can't thank you enough, Derick, for being on the show. And thank you, everyone. Like and subscribe, I guess. If you liked this, leave a comment and maybe we'll make more. But yeah, thank you. Much love.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Perfect.
Nice.